Hey guys, welcome back. This is Shadow Drone. I hope everybody's been doing good. I know I haven't posted any videos in quite some time. I've been pretty busy with life, I guess. Haven't really done any new drone projects since the last one. Just getting ready to pack up the house, put it on the market, and get the heck out of California. So, anyway, I'm posting a new project which I started in January, which has absolutely nothing to do with drones. So I've had a dream to build my own overland trailer for quite some time, and back in December I came across a trailer uh, chassis that worked perfectly for my project. So let's get into this. I'll try to keep it short and hope you guys enjoy it. So basically, there were 4 points that I came up with when I started planning my trailer project. And point number one was cost, which I set myself a budget for $3,000, which I definitely went over. Um, Two was the size and weight. I needed to make sure that the size of the trailer wasn't going to be too overwhelmingly big for my small truck, which is a 2014 Nissan Frontier Pro 4X. And as far as the weight goes, I wanted to make sure that I was well below the maximum tow weight for the vehicle, because I didn't want to put too much stress on the truck, and I wanted to make sure that I could carry everything I need for two people to do a weekend camping trip, or maybe 2 or 3 days. And the other part was the design factor. I obviously needed to like it, and I wanted to make sure that when I design it, it needs to blend in with the truck so they look like a matched pair. I know that sounds crazy, but that's just how it is. And then finally, the important parts, the most important part was the space for the sleeping compartment and the storage capability. So I wanted to make sure I had the maximum amount of space within the cabin for comfort, and storage area that was allowed me the maximum amount of storage for the size of the trailer. So let's get started. So here is the beginning of the project. I ran across this trailer on OfferUp for $1,500, and I went to go look at it, and it was the perfect donor trailer to start my project. Um, I got them down to 1,200, and then registration was 175. So I got a pretty good deal on that. Let's move on. So here is the trailer in the garage when I brought it home. So let me go into some detail here so you guys can see what I had to work with. So one of the things that I really liked about the trailer was, one, it was a utility trailer. It was the tub itself was 4 feet by 8 feet in length. I'm sorry, 4 feet by 7.5 feet. And the material that it was made out of was 1/4 inch steel plating on the bed, the fenders, and the this bumper system that the previous owner, installed. And basically what he did was he used this to transport motorcycles. He had a motorcycle on this side and one on that side. As you can see, here is the front wheel guard, and then the back wheel goes here, and he had removable lights. So he basically would lift the bike on this and then strap it down, and away he went. So I looked at it and I saw slider bars all the way around, heavy duty reinforced frame, because he reinforced the frame underneath, and it had a 3-inch square tubing frame all the way around on the undercarriage. So it was a very stable trailer. And secondly, it was the right size to fit right behind my truck without sticking over too far past the truck line, which was also key there. All right, let's move on. Here's a side view. After I was working on it, I removed the vertical metal pieces here for the front wheels and made it just basically a slider bar, and removed the second piece back here and evened it all out. So now, and I also later on in the project removed the skeletal structure that you see here. Here you see a close-up of the front. There was a framing system in the front to house a storage box, which I liked. I started basically grounding the trailer down to bare metal to take care of any surface rust and everything. I was very surprised, considering the age of the trailer, that it only had surface rust on it, very little rust damage. I was able to grind it all out, and it had some holes in the bed where he had put bolts to bolt down the tool kit and stuff. I basically just ground down the inside of the bed and welded the holes shut and patched everything up really well. I also bled for the project, as you can see here. The grinder jumped, got caught, and cut through my glove and into my finger. I had to go get stitches. Came home, put on some rubber gloves, put my gloves back on, went back to work. Here you see the trailer pretty much ground down to bare metal, and all the imperfections were taken out. Getting it ready for paint. The bars are still on here, as you can see here, but they will be coming off. I also ordered some off-road tires to replace the existing tires. As you can see here again. Now, I managed to reuse the wheels, the rims on the trailer that were on the axles. This spare tire rim was really bad. It was warped. The lug holes were pretty badly stripped. It was a mess. So I ended up ordering the tires, and since the original rims that were on the axles were in good shape, I sandblasted them and painted them with Rust-Oleum. Yes, I left them on the tire because I didn't figure pay somebody $20 to take them off and then pay again $20 to put the new tires on. So I went ahead and painted them, took care of them, got them all clear coated, ready for mounting. And then I took the new tires and the rims and tires and had them swapped. Saved myself some money. Here you see the wheel and the new tires and the first coat of paint. Now, the paint I was using was the Professional Series Rust-Oleum exterior paint, and I used a smooth roller to roll it on. I did not want to do spray paint. I figured rolling it on gives you a thicker coat and will protect the trailer better than spray paint. Also, I've had great experience with using the exterior silver can Rust-Oleum paint when I used it on my brake calipers on all my vehicles. I paint them with the red color, and the paint does not chip, does not come off, does not lose its sheen, and it's not affected by any of the oils and the constant hot and cold of a brake caliper. Perfectly good brake caliper paint. You brush it on, it levels itself, hardens, and you're good to go. So I went with the same concept with the initial paint for the trailer. Not to mention, it seals it from rust and corrosion. And here's another picture of it, pretty much painted. The interior bed, I basically just grounded it down to level the old paint that he had in there. Plus, he also had some bed liner in there that was kind of really bad, like chunky. So I grounded it down, leveled it out, patched, welded the holes and everything. And then I actually recoated it myself with some Rust-Oleum paint. And then I sprayed some Dupli color bed liner on it. Here's a close-up of the completed wheel mount and new bolts and tires and the paint. Then the next thing I did was I placed my attention at rebuilding the suspension. The springs were in good shape. They had a bit of rust on them, so I sandblasted them and recoated them with Rust-Oleum black paint. I ended up rebuilding the bushings inside and adding new mounting bolts because the other ones were pretty badly rusted. And I then added strut mounts on the top and welded a bolt right here on the mounting plate that was welded on that came out to about here. And then the coilover was mounted here and ran all the way up to the top to the top of the cross beam. There's a cross beam you see here. There's also one on the other side. You don't see it in the picture. And that's how I mounted the shock, the coilover. Works really good, by the way. Here you see me moving on to actually starting the build of the trailer. Here you have the area in the bed, which was going to become a storage area. And the way I designed this is I built a framework here, as you can see, which will hold the living quarter platform, which goes on top. The inside of the bed here will become a large 4-foot by 7-foot drawer that can be pulled out for storage. Okay, so you could see how that all works. And you notice here the framework has been removed, but the initial frame square pipes are still in the bed. They help keep this box stable. So in other words, you can lift this out and remove it and then slide it back down and it locks into place here. And it's also bolted, screwed, and glued. So moving on. At this point, as you can see, I sealed everything with the Rust-Oleum paint. Please note that there is 2 coats of Rust-Oleum primer and 3 coats of Rust-Oleum satin black on this trailer. I wanted to make sure that I would take every step to protect the metal and to keep any corrosion from occurring in the future. Here you see the inside of the bed with some aluminum rails installed, which is basically where the drawer will slide on. This is the construction of the drawer, as you can see here, and pulling it out. That's my wife pulling it out, doing a demonstration. As you can see, there's plenty of room in here to store quite a bit of stuff. Here you see the platform, the drawer, and the mounting platform for the upcoming box for the living quarters. And this here shows the completed lower platform, including the upper mounting floor for the sleeping quarters. So basically the trailer is done from the ground to the platform and ready to continue to the next step of the project. Now, the framing, which is the next step, I decided to use 3 types of material, 3 items to build the frame. And now you must understand, I could have done a metal frame, but I was trying to keep the weight down. That was a key element. So by using 2x3 wood beams, 4-inch resin coated screws, and I also used the Liquid Nail Extreme Heavy Duty Construction Adhesive. And the combination of that gave me the best structural build possible and keep the weight down. So here's 2 pictures of the framework. So basically the way I did it, it's pretty simple. Since I had the platform, which was a 1-inch plywood floor, and I used a 2x2 hardwood framework that sits underneath the platform all the way around, giving it extra rigid support. It also worked as a starting point to screw the screws up from the bottom through the 2x2 up into the upper framework, allowing it to have a place to screw into. Now, all the wood has been attached using the construction adhesive as well as the screws. So when you see this, I glued the framework to the platform and then screwed it down. And I did that all the way around, including the sides and the cross beams and the center support beams. And let me tell you, this thing is pretty strong. Not only that, but I also knew that I was going to use the outer skin, which will help support the framework in combination. So my guess is the only way this thing's coming apart is if I flip the trailer. So, and that's not something you plan on. So the next step here is the outer shell. With the outer shell, also considering the weight requirement and stability, I decided to go with 1/4-inch plywood panels. And they were 4x8s, and I cut them to fit. I used 1-inch resin coated screws to attach the plywood to the frame, and I used the brad nails to hold the frame in, to hold the wood panels in place while the glue was applied. So basically, the way it worked was I placed glue on the framework, then I cut the panels to fit on the frame and used the brad nails to tack it onto the frame so the glue could bond to the panel. And then I used the 1-inch screws at strategic locations on the frame to reinforce the sidewall, which worked very well and kept the weight down quite a bit. So here you see the living quarters. Looks like a cube on wheels. After looking at the trailer in this design, I realized that I had to do something to make it look a little more aerodynamic. Here is a picture of the back end. Now, my design needed to meet 2 types of criterias. 1, an overland trailer to sleep in, and 2, a way to also carry extra equipment when going on a trip as far as a cargo trailer. By doing the design that I did with dual entrances, I did a large opening in the back and a small opening on the side where the teardrop hatch went. So I had this huge opening here, and what I wanted to do is be able to open up the trailer at its largest width without reducing the structural integrity, so I could load in large items. So let's say you need to move something or something, you can also use it as a utility trailer. So here we show the first install of the teardrop hatch. Now I picked this thing up on Amazon for like $400 at the time. You know, that was the best price I can get for it. So it was pretty much a pretty easy install. I added framework inside the trailer to compensate for the door, cut the hole, and slid it in, and it was good to go. Now here's the funny part. I paid $400 for that little door. Later on that week, somebody I commute with who's into RVs told me about an RV salvage yard in Corona. So my wife and I drove down there on a Saturday, and we found this old door. It was huge. It was actually bigger than, it was too tall to fit on the trailer, but we got it for $35. So you can imagine how stupid I felt. So anyway, we bought the door for $35 and I went to work. I had to remove 4 inches from the door because it was too tall. So I went away, I tore it apart, and I made it fit. There's the door. So, but of course it's white and it's pretty nasty and it needed to be restored. So I went to begin restoring the hatch. Took it apart. Here's the door, the frame. And the way I did it is I used high gloss Rust-Oleum exterior paint again with a smooth roller, and I rolled it. As you can see, it came out beautiful. And I used the Rust-Oleum spray paint for the frame, and then I lacquered it with a clear coat of varnish, not a varnish, a polyurethane to protect the spray paint. Came out pretty good. So here you see the steps. It shows the door completed, put together, and a new lock, and a new key lock was bought. I bought that for like $35 on Amazon, and I assembled it all and the door was done. So basically I spent maybe $70, $80 to do that door, where I spent $400 on this door that's half the size. Oh well, you live it, you learn. So the construction of the aerodynamic nose. So as you saw in the previous pictures, the square box kind of looked a little goofy. So I decided I needed to come up with a way to give it a few better lines and a little bit of some aerodynamic look to make it look like a trailer instead of a box on wheels. So I designed and made a nose cone, as you can see here. Now, the nose cone that I designed here serves 2 purposes. 1, the aerodynamics, and 2, the central nervous system of the trailer. So everything that is installed, the electrical, the converters, the solar, the air conditioning, everything was meant to be installed in here. This way it's separated from the trailer. I don't have to make multiple entry cuts into the trailer to get all these things to work. I know a lot of people put air conditioners on the roof. Well, to me, I'd rather not cut into the roof, because all that does is open up a possibility for a leak for every cut you make. So the way I designed it is everything goes into the nose cone. Okay. Let's move on. Here's a front shot of the nose cone. Oops, got a blank slide. Moment for thought. All right. So here we show the nose cone again, and then it's completely skinned with an access door, access hatch. Another shot of the nose cone, access hatch on, the hatch closed, and then of course the completed nose cone. Came out pretty good, if I ask myself. It's a little hard to get it all lined up, but it worked. Now we're going to fit the windows. So here you see I started to cut the hole for the windows here and test fitted the window on the driver's side, and then I also put a window on the passenger side in the same location. The painting of the shell of the trailer. Now, I know a lot of people use bed liner to paint their DIY trailers. Others purchase plastic sheets or aluminum sheets, I decided to go with 5 coats of oil-based primer and 5 coats of oil-based semi-gloss, primarily because of the weight. So here we go. This is what it looks like up close after painting it. Kind of looks like a bed liner, but it's glossy. And here's what it looks like at a regular distance from the trailer. So it's actually pretty smooth. And here's what the trailer looks like painted. As you can see, it looks great. Now, the good thing about using the oil-based paint, it seals the wood. And with all those coats on it, I really seriously doubt it that I'm going to have any issues with it. Also, I don't know if you can see this, but you see that little black dot here, here, and here? Well, those are camera mounts. One of the things I wanted to do was, there's actually 2 things to that, and we'll get to that when we get to the chapter of the camera mounts. Here's some close-ups of everything. You can see the camera portal here and a camera portal there. The electrical wiring, this was fun. So one of the things I decided to do, obviously, is to insulate it as well as possible and to run all my wires to keep it clean. So I ran all my wires for the recessed lighting. I did 2-inch insulation on the ceiling and 2-inch insulation on the wall. So I basically filled it out completely. The only areas where it didn't get 2 inches is where I needed space for cutouts for either the light switches or for other little items that needed to sit between the walls. So, but the majority of the trailer was insulated with 2-inch insulation. Installations of the outer cameras and inner monitors and lights and switches. So here we go. So as you can see, the interior is already pretty much getting done here. I used the same type of plywood, 1/4 inch for the inside. And the floor, I used I forgot what it's called, African teak plywood. Home Depot actually had these really unique plywood sheets that were 1/4 inch. I was going to do tile, like plastic tiles or laminate flooring in here. But when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome, because I can stain it to match the regular wood inside to kind of match it in, but it gives you a different type of look because the flooring is different. So what I basically did was, since it was more than 4 feet across, I did the 4-foot plywood sheet in the middle and then used the same kind of plywood that I used on the walls on the edges. And this right here is a giant knot. But you'll see what it all comes together when you see the final picture here. So here we have the inside rear of the trailer. Now you're looking at this going, why this group of plywood? I mean, 2x3s. Okay, so what I ended up doing here is, because of the way I mounted the spare tire, I had to reinforce this section of the trailer to make sure that it can support the tire weight and the mounting bracket. And if you look here, you see 4 bolts. These bolts go all the way through and hold on the mounting bracket. Now, the thing you don't see here is the 8mm steel plate that I installed on top of this and then bolted it into place. So the way this works is, I have 4-inch stainless steel wood screws coming in from underneath, from the underside of the frame, all the way through. So there's 5-inch screws. They come all the way through and go into each stud, okay, left and right of the stud. So there's 2 screws. They're also glued in with construction adhesive, and then sandwiched together with construction adhesive all the way across. So this is one solid piece of wood. And I bought some galvanized 12-inch lag bolts, wood screws, that go all the way through from this outer plank all the way through to the main frame, corner frame. And there's one here, one there, and one up here. And then the same installation is done at the top with a crossbeam. And then I put a 12-inch by 12-inch steel plate that runs from the bottom here all the way to here where that knot is. And then these bolts went through the steel plate all the way through and out to the outside to hold that all together. So I hope that's enough to hold it all together. And then of course here you see a camera that's been wired that goes through that hole. And the cameras have 8 LEDs on them. So they're super bright, and I'll get into more details on that. Here you see the inside from the back into the trailer with the reset lights in place, one of the security cameras hanging down here. And then here you have vents, which are basically access panels for the cameras on the left and right side. So you can access those if you have to either replace the camera or do some kind of maintenance to it. And then of course the light switches here. There's 4 light switches that are mounted here that operate these 4 individual lights. So the reason I did that was because sometimes you want 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, or 4 lights. And then this cutout here is for 3 other switches. One controls the air conditioning, the other one controls the heater, and then the third one controls the vent. Okay, and then of course in the center here you have the split screen camera CCTV screen, which allows you to view all 4 cameras at once or individually. Okay, moving on. Now here we go. So this, I'm going to go into a little more detail on the design that I did on this, and it actually has 2 purposes. Okay, one of which is safety when camping. Hypothetical scenario: you're sleeping in your camper, you wake up in the middle of the night, you hear something outside. What do? Well, the first thing is a lot of people would open the door and come out. Well, that's all great and fine, but the problem with that is you're exposing yourself to a possible threat. You're probably safer inside the trailer without coming out to investigate. So that's what the cameras are for. You flip on the screen, cameras come on, they have super bright lights. You can look on the screen and you can see 365-degree view of what's going on around you. So if there's a bear sneaking around in your campground, you're not going to engage the bear, obviously, and you just hang out inside, watch it go away, whatever, all good. Secondly, the design on this is also for backing up. And what I've done is I've created a interface in the truck with a duplicate screen that allows me to plug the truck into these cameras as well and turn the cameras on when I'm backing up. That allows me a rear view, a front view, a left and right view. And of course you also have these little bars here, the red, yellow, and green, to tell you how far away you are from something on your sides. I thought that would be a really cool duplicate use for this project, and so I went with that. But the truck side hasn't been set up yet. Moving on. Here you see everything working. You see the camera screen, you see the lights, And the wall panels are up, the doors and windows are in, and the switches are in. Everything looks ready to go. So it's coming along nicely. Here's the wire mess, which I will be cleaning up later. This was my installation of the cameras. I used my 3D printer, which, by the way, if you don't have a 3D printer, get one. They are worth their money and weight in gold. You'd be amazed the stuff that I've used it for, to fix stuff around the house and to come up with ideas on my own. It's actually a really good investment. So I ended up 3D printing my own switch boxes for my switches, which you see here. I made the boxes to fit the switches. And since I have a very thin wall layer, it's less than, I would say maybe 3 inches, I mounted the switches towards the outside more to give me room for the wires so the wires don't get all kinked up. And here you go, you see the light switches there also for the lights. And it's really cool, they light up. Then this here is the umbilical line. So I switched, everything on the trailer is designed to be run on 12 volts. Okay. So I needed a external connector. So if I want to plug into an outlet, I can do that. The trailer will be equipped with solar. It will also have access to a generator. So you can plug a generator into that same port. So it's kind of a dual port. And here we go. This is the nose cone that I told you guys about. Now, as you can see here, it's a little cleaned up, and then these 2 areas have not been installed yet because I'm still shopping for the right solar system, and I'm still working on a custom built design air conditioning unit that will be covered later on in this presentation. So here we have the main wiring for the 12 volt system. Here you have a 110 AC to 12 volt DC transformer, which breaks down the 110 coming in through the umbilical line into the trailer and converts it to 12 volt, and then it goes into the main 12 volt breaker panel. From the 12 volt breaker panel, you're powering the cameras, the monitor, and all the electrical systems inside, which we will cover later. And then this number 3 here is a 12 volt junction panel, is where everything's plugged in. So here, the top one is basically all the cameras and the monitor. The bottom is the charging ports and everything inside the trailer. There's USB and cigarette lighter and all that stuff for 12 volt devices. If you need to charge a phone, that's all hooked up here. And then this is the main cutover switch, which basically, when you flip the switch, it powers on this whole unit. So when you're running off of a external power, you flip this, it runs in here. This is basically a clean cover to hide all the extra wires from the cameras. Keep it neat. Now when you install the solar system is going to be mounted here and will have its own power input. So when you're running off of solar, this would be off, and then you would flip this on, which will draw power from the solar system and charge the solar. And then when at night, when the sun goes down, you flip off the solar and you flip on power from either the umbilical cord or the power for the batteries. And then down here is where the AC unit will be mounted to cool the inside of the cab. Moving on. Trailer assembly. So this is where we started building the trailer together. Now here is the spare tire mount. I managed to get that on Amazon. What I really liked about it was the swing out mount. So I didn't want a permanent mount. I wanted a swing out mount. I didn't want to mount the tire on the sides. I wanted it on the rear. And so I came across that. That was like $60. And then here we have the 1 inch by 1 inch PVC outer corner trim. for the trailer. Here we show all the doors and windows installed with a screen door. Here is the trailer from the rear. Now, as you can see here, tires mounted on the back. Tire swings to the driver's side. Rear hatch swings to the passenger side. So this also helps to secure this hatch as well. Here you have the drawer, the completed drawer with the handles on it, as you can see here. Came together quite well. Here's the rear camera. Here's the light. You can see the little light on right now. That's the side camera. That camera was not installed yet at the time when the picture was taken. There's another view from the side. Another view from the camera side. Now here you can see a 2x3 poles, beams. I added those to bring the tire further away. They act as spacers. They bring the rack away from the door better. So there's less chance of the tire rubbing on the door or anything like that. Plus it brings it out enough so when you open the tire, when you unfold the tire, the hinge allows you to extend all the way to the side. So it's horizontal with the back wall of the trailer. Otherwise, this hinge will hit the wall of the trailer and only open halfway. So, and I wanted this open all the way so you have more access in the back, and it allows the tire to swing away from the drawer primarily. Here's the front view of the trailer. We've seen that already, but completed and painted. Here's another view of the trailer from the side without the trim on it yet. Here's one with the rear and the rack. Close up of the trailer mount and the spacers. Another view. Now, the cool thing, remember when I bought the initial trailer, what I liked about the steel U-bar that the guy welded all the way around, it acts as a step as well. So it has a dual purpose. It guards the trailer from rocks, bumper, kind of like baby bumpers, and it also works great as a step. Another view of the tire mounted. Now, laying out the graphics. So the graphics, having just a white trailer, a white cube, I needed something to offset it. So I came up with this graphic, which is the mountainous compass thing. Now, we do have the ability to print our own decals like this, but it was cheaper to just buy it. I got them on AliExpress for 2 sets, duplicates of these, for like, I think we paid like $25 for these. Now I went with duplicates because my wife wanted to cut the mountains out and make her own mountain range. So we bought extra so she could do that. So I'm going to show you what she ended up doing. This was bought initially for the truck, but we ended up not using it. So now we're getting to the point of 6 months, 9 days from start to finish. You ready for this? The unveiling. There you go. Here's the finished product. Not bad if you ask me. Now, as you can see, the 1" by 1" PVC trimming was placed on the trailer to clean it up. I ended up using the latest roofing material, which is the white PVC roll, which was like $200. Unfortunately, they don't make it in a 5x8, so I had to buy a 15 by 30, which is still here, So if anybody needs some material, let me know. The roof, this type of material will last 50 years. You'll never have to replace it, at least not in my lifetime. It's very simple to install. You just make sure you have bare wood on the top. You roll out the adhesive. You roll the material down. You use a squeegee out all the bubbles, and you let it sit. I did a 1/2 inch overlap on the sides, and then put the trim pieces on, and I used RV sealant. So all the corners are sealed, waterproof. And of course, 5 coats of paint, 5 coats of primer. And then what she did is she took one set of stickers, which is this piece, for the corners in the rear, and then she used the duplicate of this and created her own mountain range. So yeah, it came out quite nice. Let's do a 360. Here's the other side, as you can see, custom mountain range. The doors, the windows, the side of the trailer. And here's a close-up. Now, as you can see here, I had some leftover Pro 4X stickers that I had made for the trailer. My truck came with them, obviously, because it was a Pro 4X. So I kind of wanted to do a match set. So adding Pro 4X on there, I thought would be a nice little add-on to it. Obviously, it's not a Pro 4X. And oh, and the stuff you see up here, that is a secondary project that I was doing alongside this, which was my Nissan Pro 4X truck conversion. I converted the truck from a Nissan Frontier to a Nissan Navara, and I will show you that in an upcoming slide. And there's a teaser slide at the end of this. So anyway, so here you see it up close. And then another side angle rear view. You can see the camera back here now. Back view. Of course, this is an older picture because it doesn't have the frame on it, obviously. And this is the completed interior. So the way I did this, obviously, I stuck with the black trim. I added the little baskets on both sides. The way my wife and I are planning on sleeping in here is the head towards the back door and the feet towards the front. So these are basically so you can put your cell phone in. Here's the access panel, the access plug for the rear camera. This here is an iPhone charger, even though we have Android, but it uses an iPhone adapter, and then it has a mini USB. And then, of course, the baskets on both sides to store stuff. And then here in the front, I did I want to call it like a fireplace mantle here on the front for storage. Bluetooth speaker system. There's a cigarette lighter, a USB, a voltage meter on here. And then, of course, the heating, cooling, and vent switches there. And then here are 4 switches. And each switch is designed to power 1 camera. So this way you can turn on individual cameras or all 4. I did that to cut power so you don't have any type of phantom drain from the cameras when they're not in use. And of course here you see the clean part of the spare tire mount. So all you see is the bolts. I mean the bolt heads. And then here's a full-size view. You can see everything. Doors, walls, ceilings, and the flooring. Gotta admit, that floor really turned out nice. It kind of offsets the whole thing instead of having the same floor as you have as a ceiling. Here's what it looks like from the side door. Now we're going to get into designing a prototype. Now, I'm designing a 12-volt air conditioning unit that puts out enough cold air to cool that living compartment. I've tested it, it works. And I've managed to get the heat sink, or in this case, the cold side of the design to get down to 59 degrees. So let me show you. So those of you who've never heard of a Peltier effect, it's a method of using a ceramic chip by applying voltage, which creates a cold side and a hot side of the chip. I'm not going to go into details on how it works because all you have to do is Google it, and there's millions of hits on people playing with this technology. It's not a new technology. It's not perfect, but if you design something specific to work for your needs, it works. Okay, there's no argument. So I'm just going to go into detail what I've done, and we'll go from there. So basically, a Peltier is two ceramic chips, which is what you see here, these little white things here. Those are the ceramic chips. Now, the design you see here is just, this here is just as an example, so you know what I'm talking about. So the way it works is you have two ceramic chips that sit on a platform, okay? The hot side is at the bottom, which is where these cooling, oh geez, I just forgot the heat sinks. Here we go. These are heat sinks. They're huge, okay? This is for one chip. This is for the other chip. The hot end sits on this heat sink and this heat sink, which draw away the heat from the chip that is being produced by the current, which is pulling away the heat from the cold side, which is where this heat sink is. So this side of the heat sink drops to 59 degrees. This side can reach up to 160 to 180 degrees. It's hot enough to fry an egg. Okay, let's just put it that way. So in combination, you're trying to come up with a balance. You're trying to remove enough heat on this side to get this side as cold as possible. That's how it works. Okay, the cooler this side gets, the colder this side gets. So at this point, I've managed to come up to 59 degrees on the cold side and 130 degrees, 150 degrees on this side. Fluctuates. This is the part that's the most important because this is the part that I'm going to be using to cool the trailer. So the way it works is simple. I have a 6-inch pipe which has a cutout, okay, which this heatsink fits into, okay, and a fan which draws air through a return from the inside of the trailer across this heatsink, which is 59 degrees, and back into the trailer. Okay. I managed to get the trailer at 67 to between 65 and 67 in direct sunlight and keep it at that temperature range, running off of this unit and running 12 volts. Okay. But something you have to remember, it runs off 12 volts, but it needs 30 amps to run. So you need a special power supply that ramps the 12 volts, 30 amps circuit to power this thing. So I have to step up the 12 volt on the trailer back to 110 and then back down to 12 volts, 30 amps to make this work properly. It's not perfect, but it works. Okay, so this is basically the system that I'm working on to cool my trailer. Now, final thoughts. Well, after all that work and that money, I managed to build a trailer that meets what I needed to do. Yeah, I did go over budget by $5,000, as you can see here. But nevertheless, it was a good learning experience. I had a ton of fun, and it was worth every penny because I got the trailer that I wanted. It fits my truck. It's lightweight. It has the space for two of us to comfortably camp in, and I can carry whatever I need in the trailer for a decent time frame for camping. So I guess this brings this to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's not drone related, but maybe it helped some of you guys, or maybe it gave you an idea of what you could do. And yeah, I hope it helped. Now, this is an upcoming project, which is technically running alongside my trailer project. I just wanted to share this with you really quick. If you're into cars, this is my truck over here. As you can see, brand new from the dealership back in 2014. It was a Pro 4X, and I know a lot of you may be Nissan guys or Toyota guys or Ford or Chevy. It's all a matter of taste. I went with the Nissan because my first truck was a Nissan, and the Nissan in that class compared to the Tacoma had more torque. Also, the price was better for what you get for it. You get more bang for your buck, plus leather interior and all that stuff. And that's just what I wanted. But I like my vehicles to be unique. Always have, always will. So those of you who don't know the history of the Nissan Frontier, it has a huge history and a huge following overseas. And the true name of the truck is a Navara. Don't take my word for it, Google it. The Navara is actually more popular than the Toyota in some countries. And the European market, or the global market, their version of the Frontier is way better than the US versions. I don't know why we get the crappy versions, but the European D40 model, which is what this is that. Okay, so what I decided to do was to combine the global accessory market and design my own Frontier / Navara. So I am going to work on a short PowerPoint on this project for those of you that are interested. But just to give you a quick overall, what I did was I ordered the extended fender flares from the UK, the headlights, which are dual projector LEDs with running lights, from Japan, the grill, heavy duty grill from Taiwan, which comes with 5 orange LEDs in the grill, and the hood scoop came from Europe, and pretty much combining the combination of multiple different countries to build one custom truck. And to be honest with you, I love it. It makes the truck look very unique. Not to mention, I did a exhaust upgrade with dual exhaust from all the way from the headers all the way back. Has dual exhaust, which came from the US, and a Nismo ram air intake cold air system. I added that, and I did some custom work on the back end where I did the rack in the back is from a, believe it or not, a Tacoma. I bought a Tacoma rack and did some cutting and welding to customize it to fit my truck for what it is, and I'll show it more in other photos in the other upcoming project presentation. And if you're interested, come on by, take a look, and might give you guys some ideas. If you have any questions about where I got the components and stuff, feel free to ask. Okay? All right, guys. This is Shadow Drone. Time to call it a night. Time to hit the sack. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Looking forward to hearing comments or anything or any input you might have. Take care. Good luck, guys. Stay out of trouble. Shadow Drone out.